So hi everyone, my name is Shivam Bohra. Welcome to the official channel of CodeChef. In this video, I'll be explaining this problem called as task times, which appeared in Starters 14 2021. The difficulty level of this problem is easy to easy medium, and the prerequisites are the upper bound function, heaps, and multisets. So the problem statement says that we have m number of subjects in the syllabus and each subject consists of several topics, right? That is, a subject can have many topics. Now, if I combine all these m subjects, then we would have a total of n number of topics, right? If I combine all the topics from these m subjects, then in that case, we would have n number of topics, right? Now these topics are numbered from 1 to n, and the ith topic over here belongs to the ith subject, right? So from 1 to n, the ith topic belongs to the ith subject and takes ti hours to cover. So let me quickly simplify the problem statement for you. So we have m number of subjects, we have n number of topics, and these n topics would be from 1 till n. Since n over here is 4, so we would have topics from 1 till 4. So we would have these 4 topics, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, we have a C array and a T array. Now, for topic number 1, this topic belongs to the very first subject, and this first topic takes 1 hour to be completed, right? The second topic is from the second subject, and the second topics, or in order to complete the second topic, we would require 1 hour. The third topic is from the very first subject, and the third topic would be completed in 2 hours. The fourth topic is from the third subject, and it would be completed in 4 hours, right? So this C array tells us the subject to which the current topic belongs, and this T array simply tells us the time taken in hours to complete the current topic, right? Now we have only k hours left before the exam, and we want to maximize our marks. So in this case, if we cover x1 number of topics from the very first subject, x2 number of topics from the very second subject, and so on till m number of topics from the mth subject, then in these k hours, in these remaining k hours, we would get a total of x1 by 2 and the upper bound of this, plus x2 by 2 and the upper bound of this, plus x3 by 3 and the upper bound of this, and so on till xm by 2 and the upper bound of this, right? So we would get a total of these many marks, right? Now we have to choose the topics optimally such that we get a total of maximum marks that can be scored in these k hours, right? So we simply have to print the maximum possible marks that we can score in this exam, right? So let's consider this case to fully understand the problem statement. So here I have 3 subjects, 4 topics, and 2 hours are left before the exam. Now over here in this C array, we can see that the first topic belongs to the first subject, the second topic belongs to the second subject, the third topic belongs to the first subject again, and the fourth topic belongs to the third subject, right? Similarly, the first topic takes 1 hour to be completed, the second topic takes 1 hour to be completed, the third topic takes 2 hours to be completed, while the fourth topic takes 4 hours to be completed, right? Now, since k is 2, so we only have 2 hours for to get the total marks or to study for the exams. So we cannot consider this case, or we cannot study this topic as it takes 4 hours while we only have 2. So I'll simply discard this case. So now we have these 3 cases, right? We cannot study the fourth topic. Now over here in this case, in these 3 topics, the first topic takes 1 hour to be completed, the second topic takes 1 hour to be completed, while the third topic takes 2 hours to be completed. So again we have 2 choices. That is, either we can take the first 2 topics, the first 2 topics, which takes a total of 2 hours, or we can take only the third topic, which also takes a total of 2 hours, right? So let's see what would happen if I take the very first case in which I'm having two topics. So for subject one, for subject one, for subject one, how many topics do I have over here? I have only one topic. So for subject one, I have only one topic. For subject two, how many topics do I have over here? I have only one topic. So for subject two, again, I have only one topic. For subject three, how many topics do I have over here? So over here in this left box, I do not have any three topic or any three over here. So for subject three, I have zero topics, right? In this case. So my marks would be number of topics for subject 1 upon 2 and the upper bound of this plus number of topics for subject 2 upon 2 and the upper bound of this plus number of topics for subject 3 upon 2 and the upper bound of this, right? So this would be 0.5 and the upper bound of this plus 0.5 and the upper bound of this plus 0 and the upper bound of this, right? So this would result in 1 plus 1 plus 0, which is 2. So if I consider this case, then my total score would be 2. Similarly, if I consider only this case, then only this topic would consume my complete time, and I have only studied for the very first subject, right? So I have only studied for the subject 1. So for subject 1, I have covered only one topic. For subject 2, in this box, for subject 2, I haven't studied for any subject 2. So for subject 2, I have covered 0 topics, and similarly for subject 3, I have covered 0 topics, right? In this case, my total marks would be number of topics for subject 1 upon 2 and the upper bound of this plus number of topics for subject 2 upon 2 and the upper bound of this plus number of topics for subject 3 upon 2 and the upper bound of this, right? So this would be 0.5 and the upper bound of this plus 0 and the upper bound of this plus 0 and the upper bound of this, right? This would be 1 plus 0, which is 1, right? So if I consider the second case, then my total score would be 1, right? As we can see that 2 is greater than 1. So we would go on with this case, and the total score that we can have with this case is 2, right? Hence our answer would be 2 for this case. Now let's see how the number of topics actually affect the marks if all the topics belongs to the exact same subject, right? So here we have only one subject and all the topics belongs to this subject, right? So if topics are 0, then my marks would also be 0. If topics are 1, then my marks would now be 1, right? Because the upper bound of 1 by 2 is upper bound of 0.5, which is 1. If marks are or if topics are 2, then my marks is still 1, right? So even if I study more number of topics, then also my marks is still the same, right? So there's no point in studying this topic 2. We can only study just one topic to get the exact number or to get the exact same marks, right? If I study three topics, then now my marks are now incremented by 1, right? So we can study 3 number of topics, right? If I study 4 number of topics, then also my marks is still the same. So even if I study 4 topics, then I would get the exact same marks that I would get for studying 3 topics, right? So there's no point in studying this extra topic. Similarly, if I study 5 topics, I'll get more marks as compared to 3. But there's no point in studying 6 topics, as an extra topic would not increase the marks. But we can study 7 topics, right? Because it would increase the marks. So one thing we can observe over here is that we should study odd number of topics, right? We should always study odd number of topics, because studying odd number of topics would make sure that we are not studying an extra topic which is not fetching us any extra marks, right? So we should study odd number of topics, right? So let's consider this case. Here we have only one subject, 4 topics, and the time before exam is 6 hours, right? So we have 6 hours to prepare for the exam, right? here we can see that the C array consists of only one subject, which is 1, right? So all these 4 topics belongs to the exact same subject, which is subject number 1. This is the T array, which simply tells us about the number of hours required to complete a particular topic, right? So I'll create an array named as sub1. So this sub1 array would simply store the time required to complete the topics that belongs to this subject, right? So I'll create an array that would simply store the time required to complete a topic that belongs to this particular subject. So this topic number 1 belongs to this subject 1. So the time required over here is 3. So I'll simply store 3 over here. The topic number 2 belongs to subject 1. So the time required for this is 2, right? So I'll write 2 over here. Topic number 3 belongs to subject 1 and this requires 1 hour just, right? So I'll write 1 over here. And similarly, topic number 4 also belongs to subject 1 and this requires 4 hours, right? So I'll write 4 over here, right? So we have 4 topics. And these are simply the time taken to complete a topic over here, right? So tell me, should I study the topic which takes more number of time, or should I study the topic first which takes less number of time? The answer is simple. We should study the topic which takes less number of time, right? So I'll simply sort this array in ascending order. So I'll have 1, 2, 3 and 4, right? So these are simply the time required in ascending order to complete a topic for this subject, right? So I want to increase my score by 1 over here. So firstly, I'll simply take a single topic from here. So I'll simply take this topic which takes only 1 hour. So I'll take only 1. So now my score at this moment is upper bound of 1 by 2, which is upper bound of 0.5, which is 1, right? So till this moment, my score is 1. Now I want to increase my score by 1, right? And also till this moment, the time taken is also 1, right? Because this 1 is simply the number of hours that is required to study this topic, right? So till now the time is 1, right? Now, if I take the second topic from here, which takes 2 hours, then my score would still be the same, right? Because if we have 2 topics from the same subject, then we can see that over here. In even cases, the number of marks remains the same, right? So even if I have 2 number of topics, my marks would remain the same, right? As I have in only 1 topic, right? So instead of having 2 topics, let's try to have 3 topics, right? So instead of having this 2, I'll try to have these 2, right? So now I have 1, 2 and 3. So the time taken till now is 1 plus 2 and 3, right? 1 plus 2 plus 3, right? Which is 6, right? So K is 6, so we can take this case, right? So the number of or the marks in this case would be, we have 3 topics, 1, 2 and 3. So we have 3 topics. So 3 upon 2 and the upper bound of this. So this is upper bound of 1.5, which is 2, right? So if I take these 3 cases or these 3 topics, then now my score would be 2, right? If I try to take this 4, then we know that over here, the score for 3 topics is 2 and the score for 4 topics is also 2. So there is no point in taking this extra topic as it won't increase our marks. So we would simply stop here, right? We would simply stop here, and our answer till now is 2. So my final answer for this would be 2, right? So let's consider this final case in which we have 3 subjects, 5 topics, and we have 4 hours left before the exam, right? Now, here, since we have 3 subjects, so I have created 3 arrays which would simply store the time required to complete a topic from this subject, right? So I'll simply write the topic number for above these C array. So we have topic number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. These are the topic number. So for topic number 1, we have only 1 hour, right? We require only 1 hour, and this topic number 1 is from subject 1, right? So in subject 1, I'll write 1 over here. That is, one of the topics requires 1 hour to be completed. For topic number 2, this belongs to subject number 2, and this takes 5 hours, right? So in subject 2, I'll write 5 over here. That is, one of the topics in subject number 2 takes 5 hours to be completed. Similarly, for topic number 3, this belongs to subject number 3, and this takes 4 hours, right? So in subject number 3, I'll write 4 over here. Then we have 1 for topic number 4. So, and this takes 2 hours. So I'll write 2 over here, right? And after this, we have 5, which also belongs to subject number 1, and it takes 1 hour. So I'll write 1 over here. So that completes these 3 arrays. So now I'll simply sort these 3 arrays to get the time required to prepare a topic in ascending order, right? In ascending order. So now subject 1 array would be 1, 1, and 2, right? Subject 2 and subject 3 array would still remain the same, as they only have a single element. So now we have these 3 sorted arrays, right? Now I'll try to increase my marks one by one. My marks are initially 0, right? So I can take the very first element of the first array. I can take the very first element of the second array, or I can take the very first element of the third array, right? So which out of these 3 times, 1, 5, or 4 is the minimum time to complete a topic? The answer is simple. It is this one, right? So we'll simply consider this one, and now my score would be 1 by 2, and I'll simply find the upper bound of this. So now the upper bound of this is upper bound of 0.5, which is 1, right? So now if I consider this topic, so now my score would be incremented by 1, right? So now my score is 1, and I have used this topic, right? So now we have 2 topics left in this array. So now to increase the total marks by 1, we have 3 choices. That is, either I can take this topic having a time 5, or I can take this topic having time 4, or I can take these 2 topics together from sub 1 array, because these 2 topics together would be capable of increasing the marks by 1, right? If I only take this one topic, then it would not increase the marks by 1, right? Because then if I only take this one topic, so the number of total topics taken from sub 1 would be changed from 1 to 2, right? And as we can see over here, if the number of topics are changed from 1 to 2, the marks would still remain the same, right? So there's no point in taking this extra topic, which is not fetching us any extra marks, right? So to increase the marks, we can move from 1 to 3, right? Because this would increase the marks by 1. So we can take either these 2 topics, or we can take either this one topic or this one topic, right? As these two are the very first topic of their arrays. So we are simply moving from 0 to 1 in their cases, right? We are simply moving from 0 topics to 1 topic in their cases. So which out of these three is the smallest? Is 1 plus 2, which is 3, the smallest, or is 5 the smallest, or is 4 the smallest? The answer is simple. 1 plus 2 is the smallest, right? So now we'll consider this case, 1 plus 2, right? So now the total topics taken from sub 1 array is 3, right? We already have taken this one, so now we are adding these two. So now the total topics is 3 upon 2, and the upper bound of this, so this is upper bound of 1.5, which is 2, right? So now the total number of marks that we have got till this moment is 2, right? Now, what is the time that we have covered till this moment? We have covered 1, 2, and 1, right? So we have covered 1 plus 2 plus 1, which is 4, right? So we already have covered 4 hours of time, and we only had 4 hours of time, right? So at this moment, we would simply stop, and this 2 would be our answer. So the final approach is, firstly, since we have a m number of subjects, so I'll create m number of vectors, and using this C array and T array, I'll simply insert these values inside these three vectors, right? And after that, what I would do is I'll simply sort all these three vectors. So after sorting, the first vector would be 1, 1, 2, and the rest two would still be the same. After this, what I would do is I'll create a min heap. And this min heap would be used to increase our score one by one, right? So our score or our marks is initially 0, right? So using this min heap, I'll increase my marks one by one. So I'll simply store the first element of all the three vectors, right? So we have 1, 4, and 5. So I'll write 1, 4, and 5 over here, right? The minimum element over here is 1. So using this, I'll simply remove this 1 from here. And after removing this one, I'll simply insert the sum of next two elements of the same array if they exist, right? So after removing this one, I'll simply insert the sum of these two elements, which is 1 plus 2, which is 3, right? So I'll simply insert this 3. And since I have removed this one, so now my marks would be incremented from 0 to 1. So now the new array is 3, 4, and 5, right? We'll also keep a count of the time that we have consumed till this moment. So I have deleted this one from this min heap. So I have studied a topic that consumed 1 hour of my time. So till now the time is 1 hour, right? So now we have 3, 4, and 5. So which out of these three is the minimum? So 3 is the minimum over here. So now the time till this moment is 1 plus 3, right? Which is 4. Now this time 4 over here is equal to k, right? So we can take this 3, right? Because we can take at max 4 hours, right? So it is feasible. Hence, it is not violating any conditions till this moment. So now we can simply delete this 3 from the min heap. So now the marks is 2. After deleting this 3, if we have 2 more elements inside the same array from which this 3 came from, then we can also insert this element, or we would insert this element inside the min heap, right? If we have 2 more elements inside the same array, right? If not, then we would not insert any element inside this min heap. So marks till now is 2, time till now is 4, right? So after this 4 hours, if I take any of these two, 4 or 5, right, my time would be greater than k, right? Hence I would simply stop here, and this 2 would be my answer, right? Now at any moment in this process of deleting this element from the min heap, at any moment, if we are deleting any number from any of these three arrays, then we would simply check if we do have 2 more elements in the same array or not. If yes, then we would simply insert the sum of those 2 elements inside the min heap, right? And this process would continue till the time exceeds k, or till this min heap becomes empty, right? So moving on to the code, firstly I'll input t, which is the number of test cases. Then I'll iterate t times. Then I'll input n, m, and k. I'll also create 2 vectors c and t of size n plus 1 because I'm using 1-based indexing over here. I'll also create a vector of vectors for subject. That is, to create multiple subject vectors, I'll create a vector of vector. Then I'll simply input the c vector and the t vector. Then using the c vector and the t vector, I'll create multiple subject vectors. So subject of ci, so we know that ci means that the particular topic belongs to the particular subject. So this particular subject would now have TI, right? So now this, I'll simply insert the time taken to complete the topic into its respective subject, right? And then I'll simply sort this subject vectors, right? All the subject vectors that we have. So now that we have sorted all the subject vectors, now I would simply store the first value of, or the first element of all these subject vectors inside the min heap, right? So to implement this min heap, I'll create a multi-set of pair of int comma pair. So my multi-set would store 3 values for every element. And then I'll start iterating from 1 till m, as we have m subjects from 1 till m. And if subject of I dot size is greater than 0, if the current subject is not empty, or if the current subject vector is not empty, then in that case index would be 1. That is, we are simply referring to the next element, because we are working, or we would simply store the 0th element. So index would be 1. That is, for the next element, index would be 1. And at index 0, subject of I comma 0 would be stored in ti, right? Subject of I comma 0 is simply the time taken to complete the current topic. So this time taken would be stored in ti, right? And now we would simply insert this ti, this index, and this I inside this min heap, right? This I is simply the subject number over here, right? So now that we have created the min heap, now I'll initialize marks to 0 and the current time or time to 0, right? Now I'll use a loop. Here the condition is, if min heap is not empty, if min heap dot size is greater than 0, that is, if min heap is not empty, then in that case we would simply store the minimum value of this min heap, which is stored at min heap dot begin, or star of min heap dot begin. We would simply store this value in this p, which is of data type pair of int comma pair. So now my p would store the 3 values that is stored in min heap dot begin, or the star of min heap dot begin, right? So p dot first was ti. So now I would store p dot first in this ti. Index, or this p dot second dot first, would now be stored in index, and the last element I is stored in subject number, right? So p dot second is stored in subject number, right? So we have fetched all the elements, or all the 3 values from this min heap dot begin, or from this current min heap element, right? Now we would simply erase this current element from the min heap, and now I'll check if the current time plus ti is greater than k or not, right? So if this condition is true, that is, if I add the time taken to complete the current topic plus the current time, and if this time comes out to be greater than k, then I would simply break this loop. But if not, then I would simply add this current time, or I would simply add this ti to the current time, right? And I would also increment my marks by 1, right? So now that we have erased the current element from the heap, so now I would simply find the vector of this element. So the vector of this element is stored in subject number. Now I would simply check if this vector contains 2 extra element, then I would simply insert the sum of these 2 extra elements inside my min heap, right? So this element was 1 less than this index, right? This element was 1 less than this index. So now I would check if index plus 2 is less than or equals to subject of subject number dot size, right? So I would simply check if index plus 2 is less than or equals to the size of the current vector. So if this condition is true, then inside this ti1 I would simply add the next 2 elements. Vector elements. So it is simply stored in subject of subject number of index, because index belongs to the next element, and next to the next element would be index plus 1, right? So I would simply add these 2 elements. I would simply store it in ti1. Now I would simply insert this ti1 inside this min heap, and other than this ti1, now I would insert index plus 2, because we have now moved on to 2 more indexes, and the subject number remains the same, right? So using this while loop, I'll keep on inserting elements inside this min heap. I'll keep on deleting elements from this min heap till a point that either this condition becomes true, that either the time exceeds k or the min heap becomes empty, right? So at the very end, I will simply print the marks. So let's just run this code. So this is the sample input that we have in the problem statement. And the output should be 1, 2, and 3 for this, right? So let's just run it. So here we can see that our answer is 1, 2, and 3, which is the correct answer. So let's just submit the code. So I'll click on submit. So here we can see that I got the correct answer.